Welcome to the BS Show. Are you ready to shoot the... The BS Show would like to thank their sponsors. Jack Cameron, accredited mortgage professional. Jack can show you the way home. Graco Impact Sports, providing top quality combat sport equipment tested and used by all levels of athletes. Dominate your world. RepoSales.ca, specializing in vehicle and equipment recovery, liquidation, and sales. Hemmings House Pictures, the global movement media makers, helping tell your brand story to the world and accelerate the momentum of your movement. Farmbox Films, capturing stories the way you want to remember them.
Greetings, fellow humans. Welcome to the one, the only podcast dedicated to mixed martial arts and combat sports in Atlantic Canada. I am your host, Boyd Sharpe. As always, with me this evening, Mr. Rick Trash Canyon Doyle. Rick, Skippy is going to take a little break for us. This is our last show for a number of weeks, and we have an awesome card to promote. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great, my short-peckered friend. Thanks so much. I mean, folks, we just connected with Skippy a minute before we went live here. And if you know Boyd Sharpe, you know how incredibly anally organized this guy is. So when this show starts on Monday night, this guy is about as prepared as you could possibly be with his guests and his lineups and the whole 9 yards. And 1 minute before live air, Skippy goes, I have Peter Martell's voicemail again. Folks, I just heard the greatest meltdown on the other end of this phone. I mean, I lost my shit. Boyd, we're going to make it through, brother. We are.
Yeah, Peter is starting to remind me of a unicorn. He's just a mythical beast that people report to have seen, but he's Sasquatch. Peter Martell is now officially Sasquatch.
Well, I know Skippy's losing his shit on the other end, too. And because when this kind of stuff happens to you, brother, we come out with the best shows anyway. So let's just enjoy the ride. So what was
I tell you, we do have a hell of a show lined up for us tonight because we have the Fight First card that we've been teasing out a little bit of information about in recent weeks that's taking place in Halifax on November 28th. And that is an amateur MMA and Muay Thai card taking place at the Olympic Hall in Halifax. And this card in the past week has gotten more buzz on social media than any event that I've seen in Halifax for combat sports other than the UFC when it was here a month or so ago. I mean, Facebook is completely on fire with people tagging and sharing and promoting this card. It's awesome. I'm excited to see what kind of a crowd we're going to have there.
Well, that's good to hear, Boyd. I've kind of been unplugged for the last week, so I haven't really followed anything. And so, sorry, Skip, I just heard the phone ringing there. Are you still trying, my friend? He must be.
Well, listen, Rick, I'll give you a little bit of an inside scoop. I took a look at the social media traffic around that Fight First event. And in the past 3-4 days, over the previous weeks, traffic to that event page on Facebook increased by over 4,000%. It's absolutely just on fire.
That's excellent, Boyd. And, I mean, that seems to be the trend now for advertisement on these events. There's a lot of social media work. Now, personally, I've been unplugged for the last week. I haven't seen any posters anywhere. I haven't seen any or heard any radio ads that we've heard in the past for the MMA event. So I'm wondering if we're seeing a totally different approach on the promoting of this event this time as well.
Well, I do know Peter was trying to keep costs down as much as possible. He said I did run into him the other day, and he did say he was trying to get ticket prices down a little bit so we could have a slightly lower price point and perhaps get a couple of extra people into the event for that reason. So he didn't go with the online ticket sales through like a Ticketmaster type thing because that would have added like $5 or $6 to total price of the ticket. So he's handling all of that either himself or through some other people who are working with him to try to keep the tickets under $50 as they can. And I think they're coming in right around $45.
Well,
Skippy, have you had any luck? Skip, you had any luck? No? Okay. Well, I did drop by the gym the other day, and I did talk to Peter, so I actually have the answers to some of the questions that I was going to ask him. So I'll run through those right now, Rick. These fights, all amateur, are going to be your standard MMA and Muay Thai with no elbows and knees to the head. They're going to be 3-minute rounds, 3-minute rounds for the MMA regular bouts, and we do have a title fight on this card. D. Logue out of New Brunswick, out of Synergy, is going to be fighting Eric Norris, a guy that I think you got a chance to look at his brother fight a couple of cards ago. Those guys are beasts, and they're going to be fighting for a title, and that's going to be 5 3-minute rounds.
Okay. The whole thing sounds really exciting, Boyd. I'm interested in the business approach that he's taken on this. How he's promoting it, how he's trying to save a little money, and how that all pans out. The other thing I'm interested in knowing, we got our eyes opened up a little bit on last week's show. Both the roots of Muay Thai and whatnot, and I was kind of interested to find out if Peter was leaning more along those lines or just to get this event off the ground, like what approach he was taking. To be honest, I'm hope there's a real good reason. I'm kind of pissed off not here, so.
Yeah, and hopefully we will be able to get him connected in here before the show is over. I did ask him a little bit about if they were going to go sort of with the traditional Thai style when the event was going on with the music and such. They are going to use the Thai music, and they're going to try to do like when the guys come out to the ring and when they prepare for the fight. They're gonna do that, but they're not going to do the music playing during the actual fight. Like Crew Brian was telling us last week, how they can kind of play with the tempo and to speed the guys up or whatever. I don't think a Halifax audience would really be ready for that or even know what to do with that if it was going on during the fight. But they are going to try to put some of the cultural pieces into the event by having the music playing when they come to the ring and prepare themselves for the fight. So that should be cool to see.
Well, that sounds exciting, and I'd like to thank everybody that's showing interest in this event, and hopefully we're going to see a lot of faces out. We tried to promote this event as much as we could to get the exposure for these guys, and even though we didn't get Pete on here to try to, get his angle on the whole promoting issue, please get out there and support this because I know it's really important to everybody.
Cool. Well, let's jump right into the card here. Our next guest, I've been wanting to have on this show for quite a long time. I grew up in rural Newfoundland, and if you want to look at it this way, Brazil had the Gracie family, and rural Newfoundland, where I grew up, had the Foley family. This was a family completely filled with martial artists, and I guess even before mixed martial arts was around, they were mixed martial artists because they're involved in so many different kinds of martial arts. And I think oh, great! I think that their dad and the brothers have now opened gyms and are training fighters. And for the first time ever, these guys are going to be sending some fighters up from the gym in Newfoundland to fight on this amateur card. Michael, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Michael,
thanks
so
brother?
much for joining us, man. Super happy to have you joining us.
Glad to be here.
Listen, man, your dad started a martial arts school literally in my wife's backyard, and I believe my brother, my younger brother Jerry, actually did a bit of training there when he was a kid. Can you tell me a little bit about how your dad first got into martial arts, and then what pulled you and your brothers into it to the point where you now run schools of your own?
Oh my goodness. Well, let me see. Dad started training, I think, about 1974, and he started at the university in St. John's Memorial University, and he what got him interested is, I don't know if you ever saw the old cult movie, The Legend of Billy Jack.
Oh, but, yes, I love that.
Yeah, that movie came out, and when the scene came out, and Billy Jack says, I'm going to take this right foot, and I'm going to kick you up the left side of your face, and there's nothing you can do about it. Well, Dad saw that in 1972, and that was it. So he just went looking for a place to train. So he found a club at the university in 73, 74, somewhere around there, and that was it. He dropped out of university, I think when he got his yellow belt, and sold his motorcycle and hitchhiked to Montreal, and he lived there until he got his brown belt. And he moved home, I think, in 1978, and he opened up his first school in the fire hall in Spaniards Bay in 1978. So,
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
So that's where it started.
That's movie shit. That's movie shit right there. Right there. Sells his motorcycle, drops out of school, and travels halfway across Canada to study martial arts. That's fantastic. So obviously it was a part of your life and your brother's life from a very early age. Did you guys have a choice even to if you were going to get into martial arts or not?
Well, it's not that we didn't have a choice. It's kind of like if you grow up in a hockey family, and your dad is the hockey coach, and your uncles play hockey, and your cousins play hockey, and your older siblings play hockey. You're going to kind of play hockey whether you're good at it or not. It's going to be in your face every day, and you're going to be at the rink. So it's not any different from that type of upbringing, which was popular in rural Newfoundland, especially where we grew up. But we just didn't do hockey. We did karate. So it was in our face, and some of us, like myself, I spent I think the most time on the mats when I was a kid, more so than my siblings, but they kind of drifted in and out. Some of them really liked competing, and some of them really liked, doing class but not competing. And we did it at different levels, but we just did it every day. There was no push to do it. But
so, how many of you are actually running gyms or sort of working in the martial arts world right now?
We've got 5 full-time martial arts instructors in the family right now. So we've got 5 schools, and my dad still teaches 7 days a week, and myself and 3 of my brothers.
Like I said, it's Newfoundland Gracie family, man.
Yeah.
How did you guys happen to broaden out and get into things other than karate? Because I mean, you're doing the guys are training mixed martial arts at your academies. I believe there's jiu-jitsu going on. How did that happen?
Dad always had a kind of an open door policy, like back in the 60s and 70s. Karate, it was your style. So whatever style you did, that was the best style, and it was the baddest style, and all the other styles didn't measure up to what you were doing. That was the mentality from dojo to dojo. And Dad, he kind of had an open door policy where, there were good instructors and bad instructors. It didn't matter what martial art you were doing. It mattered who you were as a person. So if Dad liked you as a person, or liked how you taught people, how you got across to people, then it was an open door policy. So those guys were allowed into the gym, and that gave us access to kung fu guys, taekwondo guys, Muay Thai guys, kickboxers. We saw all of those guys come through the doors of the dojo growing up. So it was, and plus Dad, like Boyd, I don't know if you remember when that boat of Russian fishermen got stranded in Harbor Grace, Newfoundland, back in the early 90s. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I don't. I was probably living in Korea at the time.
Yeah, okay. So there's one winter, these Russian fishermen get stranded in Harbor Grace, and it turns out that 2 or 3 of them are Muay Thai kickboxers from Russia. So they didn't have any money. So they actually biked from Harbor Grace, which is like 20 kilometers away, to my dad's club every night just to train. And this was the first time we'd ever seen Muay Thai kickboxing, and Dad let him train for free, and just in exchange, show us how you guys train, show us what you guys do, and that's kind of the way he ran things. So it's
that is crazy. We're going to have to get your dad. We're going to have to get your dad on a future show.
Yeah, he's a funny guy.
Now, I know there's no combat sports authority or boxing commission or fight commission in Newfoundland and Labrador right now, but you've managed to actually be involved with promoting some kickboxing events. How did you start that?
We jumped through a lot of hoops with the government. The big thing is with Newfoundland is all the government policies and procedures, they mirror what Ontario does, or at least they did when we were trying to get sanctioning here. But basically, Ontario wanted our amateur kickboxing organization to be affiliated with a national one that was recognized by Sport Canada, and Sport Canada wanted us to be with an organization that was recognized by the International Olympic Committee. So the kickboxing organization that's recognized by the IOC is WACO, the World Association of Kickboxing Organizations. So we aligned with that group, and then we just started jumping through the hoops that they put in front of us. And it got sanctioned in Ontario in 2006, I believe. And we did the first card up there. I believe it was in April of 2006, the first government-backed sanctioned amateur kickboxing event. And then shortly after, we got it sanctioned in Newfoundland under the same guidelines, and we hosted our first event June 22nd, 2007.
And would they be wearing headgear and such, or would it be just 16-ounce gloves?
No, the way WACO works is it's basically the same rules as amateur boxing. So it's like a top 10 headgear, like a good quality headgear, and a 10-ounce IABA approved boxing gloves. And then in addition, depending on what discipline of kickboxing you did, that would dictate how much protection you had on your feet. So like American full contact rules, you'd have to wear foot gear and shin gear. International kickboxing rules, it was just shin gear. And then at the time they were calling it Oriental rules, but they changed it because it's not PC, so they changed it to K1 rules. And those rules kind of mirror professional K1 circa, say, 2005, so that you had to wear like a light shin gear, and same thing, 10-ounce gloves and a good sturdy headgear.
Cool. Well, let's take a step now into the world of mixed martial arts, because this is a new thing for a club to be sending. Is it 3 guys that you have coming up to compete in mixed martial arts in Halifax this week?
We've got 2. We were supposed to have 3, but one of our guys, he had an MMA match lined up, but his opponent fell through, so they had a kickboxing one for him. But he's got a boxing one here, so he had to weigh his pros and cons, and then he ended up getting pneumonia. So between the jigs and rigs, we're down to 2 now. Yeah,
well, we've seen that happen a number of times in the fight game. I'm going to invite my partner in crime here, Rick Doyle, my co-host, to jump in and ask you a question. And I do believe we have tracked down Peter Martel, and we'll bring Peter into the conversation in just a minute. Go ahead, Rick.
Sounds good.
Oh, that's great. Thanks so much for coming on, Coach. It's an absolute pleasure when we get the opportunity to speak to a pioneer in a certain area. And don't take that the wrong way. That's 100% compliment there.
I take it as a compliment. Thanks.
My question, and it sounds like you've got all kinds of exciting things on the go over there, and it's really growing and progressing, and you seem like you're a big part of that over there. But whenever I get somebody that's been there since the grassroots beginnings of it, and I always like to ask, what was it like to get those gyms going? And I remember Professor Abel telling us about when he started his jiu-jitsu gym that he actually had a ninja walk through the door and challenge him. and we've heard Peter Martell talk about him trying to open a gym and people in the community concerned about it because they didn't want a bunch of fighters hanging around, like that was a bad thing. Tell me about some of the experiences that you went through over there.
We've had some doozies come through the door, that's for sure. My dad's definitely got some good stories over the years, but we've had guys come in like the old school bare knuckle karate days. It was your dojo's useless, my dojo's the best. So there were challenge matches like that all the time.
I'm sure, and it seems like your gym was one of the first to welcome different techniques and different styles. How did you find, was that difficult to begin blending them together to work as one?
Not really, because we took the guesswork out of it. Basically, when it came time to have a question about, like how does around the early 90s, we started moving from old-style karate rules into more of a modern-day karate and kickboxing style. So at the time, I don't know how familiar you guys are with American kickboxing and whatnot, but Joe Louis was the man in the 60s and 70s. And my dad was like, okay, well, if we're going to go this route, then I'm just going to call Joe Louis up and I'm going to bring him in for seminars. So, here we are in rural Newfoundland, population 2,500, and we bring in the former heavyweight champion of the world from Virginia, I believe is where he lives. And Dad flew him in a couple of years in a row, and so it kind of took the guesswork out of it, so blending styles and whatnot. And I'd like to say it was a steep learning curve, but we just brought in the best instructors we could get our hands on. So
how was the
that's the route we took.
Well, Rick is 100% right that you guys were definitely pioneers in approaching martial arts in that way, and exposing people who study one martial art to other martial arts, and then look where that has led us now to sort of mixed martial arts being the entertainment capturer, and then people training and cross-training in so many different martial arts. Who runs the MMA program, if you'd call it that, at your school?
At our place, it's kind of a mix. Like I'm the head instructor, and I run the kickboxing and the jiu-jitsu. But we've got a bunch of other purple belts that help out with the jiu-jitsu, and we're really close to the university. So a lot of guys that train at the gym are wrestlers. So we've got 5 or 6 university level wrestlers at the club. We had a really good wrestling coach for 3 years at the gym, Murray Payne. He wrestled with Lakehead University and UNB. So basically, we had this a core group of instructors, and we've got our kickboxing specialist. One of our guys, he's just a kickboxer, and he's a 2-time junior world champion for kickboxing and sport karate, and he helps out with the striking. So it's instead of one guy calling all the shots, we've got a hub of 6 to 10 guys who all jump in and they do their part. So if we're working on something that night that is jiu-jitsu based, then I'll put my 2 cents in, and the wrestling coach will put his 2 cents in. And then if we're talking about boxing transitioning to wrestling, then we've got some guys at the gym that box, and they help out with the wrestling coach. So we kind of blend it all together, and nobody's like the be all end all. It's my way or no way. It's
well, man,
that
just sounds super, super exciting, because knowing the history of your family in martial arts, and knowing that you have access to all of these other specialists in various martial arts, and especially having the university wrestlers in the mix and boxers in the mix, I'm super excited to see what these boys coming up from St. John's are going to be able to do this week. Michael, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I definitely want to give you a couple of minutes before we jump on to our next guest to put out a few thank yous, to promote your gym and your family's line of gyms, and put out a few thank yous to the folks who've helped out getting these fighters ready and sending them off to Halifax to compete this week.
Okay, sounds good. Well, thanks for having me on. If anybody wants to get in contact with us, we've got an open door policy for drop-ins. You can go to Foley'sMartialArts.com. And thank yous. My dad, he's the one who started it all, and he's our head coach. Coach Murray Payne, Matt Kippenhook, Ronald Earl, Dave Jardine. These guys are all coaches at the gym. Rob Shandira, Steve Ryan, Pedro Sauer, Jiu-Jitsu. I can go on all night.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Michael. And we're going to be doing a lot of shows in the new year. We do have a lot of guests tonight, so we're going to move on. But I definitely would like to extend the invitation that we get you back on and perhaps spend a little more time in a more relaxed interview where we can really dig into some of the stuff that you guys have done in the past and some things that you got going on in the future as well.
Okay. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks so much, Michael. Take care.
Thank you. Okay.
Skippy, have you found the Sasquatch?
Boys,
was just telling me how much. I was going to say, Skippy was just telling me before we went on air how much he hates dead air, and then I asked him a question, and he's completely fucking silent.
I know. You're just losing mind tonight, aren't you?
The only place that dead air should exist is on the CBC. My question for you, Skippy, was: did you find the Sasquatch?
I did. I've got him live right now, the one and only Peter the Unicorn Martel.
Pete, we were starting to think that you were a mythical creature, man. You didn't really exist.
Like I was telling Skippy, third time's a charm. The first time I just missed the call. The second time I picked it up, there was no sound. And the third time, here we are.
Here we are. Good stuff. Well, I did run through the answers to some of the questions that I was going to ask you based on the conversation we had at the gym the other night. But I did want to take a step back and say, where did this Fight First promotion come from, and what are your goals for it going forward? I mean, you've promoted mixed martial arts in Nova Scotia for quite a long time. Why this new approach?
Well, Fight First is basically what it says. This is an organization that promotes amateur sport, and this is designed to get new fighters, new talent, to train and compete in mixed martial arts and Muay Thai, and with an eye to developing them and seeing if they have what it takes to become pros, and go beyond that. Currently what we've had, and I've noticed this, in doing matchups with the ECC, is that sometimes I'm getting a fighter from here who's, 1-0, and I'm matching up with a guy out of Quebec or wherever who's, 2-0, and you do a little investigation, you find out that he's 9-0 amateur. So in reality, he's got 11 fights.
Right.
And if you don't do some serious digging, you don't find these amateur records. So the goal is to get some guys experience with, and get them training and moving in the right direction without affecting their professional records. If you have one amateur fight, you can learn so much from it. You'd realize, suddenly, wait a second, I got to do this. I should be doing this. And, or maybe, realize, hey, I'm good, I can go pro. But, again, I don't think that the Fight First is here to like amateur boxing in some provinces, to get someone who's, a certain age and get them 50 amateur fights and basically eat up their career. I'm thinking, guys who get 5 fights, 7 fights. If you've got if you're 5-0, 6-1, go pro. Again, MMA it's an unforgiving sport, it's a rough sport. So if you try to get 20, 30 fights, you're taking a lot of damage and you're limiting your career. So unlike amateur boxing, we just want to develop these guys, get them experience, get them going in the right direction.
Yeah, Rick and I and Skippy talked about this a few weeks ago, and Rick made the very good point that mixed martial arts kind of is a sport that evolved upside down. Pro mixed martial arts kind of just dropped out of the sky, and it's not like hockey where you play as a kid and then you do some amateur version of the sport and then you the small cream of the crop move on to pro. We just kind of had pro mixed martial arts promotions pop up, and guys were basically rolling around the gym for a bit, hitting a heavy bag, and then jumping into a cage and fighting. So it's cool to see that we're now going to have a more formalized process for kids to learn the sport, learn the basic skills. When they feel they're ready, try it as an amateur, and then move on.
The sport of mixed martial arts is kind of unique in the way it developed, because we took mixed martial arts originally meant someone from karate fights someone from taekwondo, and someone from kung fu fights someone from jiu-jitsu, and a wrestler fights someone from judo. That's what it meant when it said mixed martial arts. So you could take these guys who were already established in these sports, and them being pros was acceptable. What it's grown into is people realizing that, wait a second, I train boxing, but I'm lost in the ground, so I'm going to take some wrestling so someone can't take me down. Or it's a wrestler who would take people down, and he didn't know what to do, so he took jiu-jitsu so he could submit people. And now, so we've got people who've trained in, mixed martial arts, evolved and developed a sport and created what we have today, but they were going from the gym to pro. And that's still happening in a lot of cases. You're going from the gym to pro fights without the development that an amateur circuit will afford. So, I think that with the amateur circuit, we're going to see much better fighters, 10 years from now.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Rick, did you want to jump in here?
I sure would. Thank you very much, Professor Martel, for coming on the show. It's always a pleasure. When we can get a hold of you.
I deserve that. I got to admit.
I'll be honest, it's worth it on my end just to watch Boyd melt down, because the structure is starting to crumble. And well, the pleasure I got from that. Coach, I've got one easy question and two tougher questions for you. First one, when you're putting together this amateur fight promotions, is there an age limit to these, or are we talking very young adults getting in for the first time, or?
Well, I wanted it to be 16 and up. As you may know, in amateur boxing in Nova Scotia, I think you can fight at 9 or 11. One of those two. It's either 9 years old or 11 years old you can fight. And I really think that's, in my opinion, too young. I don't think that you're making an informed decision that you want someone to punch you in the head at that age. You're basically living through your parents. But I think by the time you're 16, you have an idea of, you certainly you don't understand the world, but you have an idea what sport you like and whether you want to try this or not. Now, having said that, the age limit in Nova Scotia is 19, and that was a compromise we made with the professional board in order to get, sanctioning from the provincial government. They had certain criteria, meaning that you had to be age of majority, old enough to vote to be an amateur. So 19 years old is the youngest we can have.
So you're not looking at putting together a promotion that would run similar to the amateur boxing, where you see, I don't know what age they're in there, but a very early age and working their way through the amateur ranks.
No, again, I think you should let your brain develop when you're a child. I don't think you should get it scrambled. When you're old enough to decide you want your brain scrambled, then you can fight. Certainly, it's important to get these kids training young and get them the skills, get them the confidence, that's going to serve them throughout their entire life. The confidence with the ability they're going to have when they start learning mixed martial arts. But as for fighting, I think 16 is fine, and maybe sometime down the road we'll be able to write an amendment to the rules which lowers the age. Once the board, the pro board, sees that we're doing this responsibly, and hopefully they'll be a little more malleable.
Now, we've had a number of discussions over the last few weeks about this Fight First promotion and the whole amateur versus pro shows from a promoter's point of view. And, we debated it back and forth, and we all know that an amateur league is very, very important. Amateur fights are very, very important. The one big worry is that amateur fights may become more profitable for a promoter to run, and therefore want to do more of those than the actual, suffer the expenses of the pro promotions.
Well, certainly that is a concern. And, to be perfectly honest, when I got this passed and we established a board, of which I'm actually a member, I started getting phone calls and emails and text messages from fly-by-nighters who were like, hey, I want to put on an amateur fight. And, certainly, anybody can put on an amateur fight. Do is conform to, what the board requires. And when I started telling them, this is what's necessary, you need this medical, you need that medical, you need this insurance, you got to do this, you got to do that, basically every one of them melted away. It's still thousands and thousands of dollars to put on an amateur card. There are some jurisdictions that are putting on these cards, and they're like, oh, yeah, we only have to charge $20 for tickets. But they're not sanctioned. They don't have a doctor. They don't have two doctors. They don't have an ambulance and two paramedics. They don't have insurance. They don't have a sanctioning fee. So charging $20 is fine for them. But if you're doing it the legal way and the proper way with doctors and with ambulance and insurance and the sanctioning and the proper judges and officials and that, it's an expensive proposition. We've been doing some pro-am cards here, just because doing all pro, with the number of rounds that were required, generally around 10 fights, you've got 20 purses, flights, hotels, things like that. It was almost impossible to do a pro card and make it profitable. But with pro-ams, it seemed to work a little better. Now, all amateur, this is the first all amateur card we've done. It doesn't look like it's going to be any better than a pro-am card, and I think the reason being is that, the pros have more of a reputation. More people will follow them. I think they sell more tickets. And, in reality, if you have 4 or 5 pro fights, you're often only adding, maybe $10,000. So the goal of those pro fighters is to sell that extra $10,000 in tickets to keep these fights pro-am, so we can keep developing and we can keep the pros going. Certainly it's not going to be viable to just run amateur fights and then have a whole bunch of people who are ready to go pro and have nowhere for them to fight. So
yeah, we actually
support these fights.
We were talking about that earlier in the show, though, as well, Peter. I had mentioned, or Boyd had mentioned, that he had saw a tremendous action on social media with this. I had mentioned that I hadn't seen any posters or radio ads that I've heard for MMA shows, and we kind of thought, okay, he's trying to cut some costs, keep the costs down, to make this thing viable, to make this thing happen and let it develop. The next question I wanted to ask you, Coach, was about the commission structure for this amateur league. And you've got the unfortunate position, again, of being a pioneer in this area and being the guy that has to do all the dirty work, or it would never exist and never get off the ground. So here you are in the position now that you're running the promotion and heading the commission, or part of the commission as far as the amateurs go?
I'm part of the commission. The commission is made up of 5 people, actually 6 people, including Hubert Earl from the professional commission. So what we did was we went around to gyms that we know and people who were interested, and set up a board with members who, said, yeah, we'll be part of this. So we went to the gym owners for the most part. Like most amateur leagues, that's what it is. It's gym owners, because these are the people who are putting on these fights. So, one of the people is from Marmac. So we've got Scott Noss, and they'll be representing some fighters from Newfoundland who they're affiliated with. So these people from Newfoundland are fighting out of Marmac from Truro. We've got Jared McIntosh. We've got Kevin Taylor. We've got Cole Peach. Myself, and like I said, Hubert Earl. At any time when the tenure is up, and I believe it's 5 years, we're open to another board member joining. From someone calls me up and says, "Hey, I'm from this gym. I want to be on the board." We're certainly happy to welcome them.
So is there any conflict as far as owning the promotion and being involved on the commission as well?
No, that's frequently done with amateur sport. I've got to follow all the same rules as any other promoter. We're still overseen by the pro, the pro commission. They still, like whenever they want, and they have requested for this one, they've requested to see our fighters' medicals. It's the regulations still exist and they have to be enforced because we have such a close association with the pro board. We still need doctors and ambulance and insurance and the extensive medicals and the records matched up, and so nothing's changed from the pro fights to the amateur fights except that I'm on the board.
Well, Peter, that's fantastic to hear that you guys are doing your due diligence and you're going about this in a way that's going to pass muster from anybody who looks at it from the outside to make sure that the safety of the athletes is first and foremost. So it's awesome to hear that the regulations that you're going to have to pass to fight and to promote are just as stringent as what we have for professionals. So that's super. We got a lot of guests tonight, so I want to give you just a couple of minutes to give the coordinates about this event, how people can get tickets, and if you want pitch a fight or two or the event as a whole, because I would really, really like to see a large number of people to get out and support this first event.
Yeah, I certainly would too. It's the very first all-amateur card, the very first card for Fight First, and we've got a great lineup, including a title fight. This is going to be exciting, and I believe I showed you a picture of the title belt. It looks great, and I've actually held it, and it's certainly something that you'd be proud to wear. So we've got Eric Norris versus D. Logue, and both of these guys have a lot of skill, and they're both going to come hard. So it's a toss-up as to who's going to be wearing this belt at the end of the night, but they're doing 5 rounds for this title. And then, they'll be defending this belt. So this is, it's nice to have some guys with a record so we can get, championship belts going and get people defending belts and get people, something they can work toward. I'm really excited about that fight. That's going to be a great fight. The other fight that I think is going to be interesting, and, I really don't know much about Jody Phillips from Island Impact from PEI, but she's fighting Kirsty Cass from Wolf Run, and those are the only two main MMA gyms in PEI, and for them to have a fighter that's going head to head like this is really, really exciting.
And that's a Muay Thai fight, correct?
That's a Muay Thai fight. So that's this is going to be. I'm really excited to see the outcome of this one. It's almost for bragging rights on the island here. So we're hoping that we're going to get a large contingent from PEI with us to cheer on their teammates. Fights on Friday the 28th. It's at Olympic Hall on Hunter Street in Halifax. And if you want tickets, you can call me at 902-830-9111 or email fightfirstns@gmail.com. You can get tickets at the door. There's VIP tables at C8. If you haven't been to one of these fights, what's wrong with you? You gotta go check them out. There's nothing like seeing them live. They're just so exciting.
Anybody who's
only good thing about the
anybody who's to the cage. Sorry, go ahead, Peter.
I was going to say the one good thing about the amateur being on the board is that normally, as a promoter at ECC, I'm cornering fighters, and I don't get to see the show. As a member of the board, I don't corner any fighters. I sit back and run things, make sure the promotion goes right, and make sure the board's doing what it's supposed to be doing. So I don't corner any fighters. I can't even cheer for a fighter. And so I actually get to see all the fights, which is so exciting. I get to, sit back and watch these fights for a change. So I'm kind of happy with that. I mean, it's tough not cheering and tough not cornering sometimes, but there's the other side of things.
Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, Coach. I think it was great. Everybody was curious. We do a lot of talk with Skippy down in the States and how their amateur leagues are running, and it's so awesome that you've gone through all the hard work to get this off the ground, make sure it has all the proper credentials and regulations, and working with the pro commission the way you are to make sure these people get fights and get this whole thing off the ground. It's awesome. Thank you. One question before I let you go, though. Last week, Boyd and I kind of had our eyes opened to the Muay Thai promotions that they're running elsewhere, that they really put an emphasis on the traditional, the dancing, the culture. Is that something you're going to move into or touch on, or?
Well, these fights, the MMA and the Muay Thai fights for this card are in a ring, and we will be playing the traditional Thai music as entrance music for all the Thai fighters. And, they're certainly encouraged to do their ritual once in the ring. So we are really, I'm looking forward to that. That's the heart and soul, the spirit of Muay Thai, and we certainly want to be, be true to that.
As we all are after last week's.
Yeah. Our talk, Peter, if you haven't heard it, our talk we had with Crew Brian Jones was absolutely fantastic. The guy just gave us a real schooling on the history of Muay Thai and a lot of the cultural aspects that Rick and I were unaware of. It was a super awesome conversation, and I encourage anybody who's listening to this show to jump back through the list and listen to that one. Well, thanks so much, Peter. We really look forward to the fights on Friday night, and best of luck to the promotion and to all the athletes who will be stepping into the ring.
Thank you so much, Boyd. Rick, always a pleasure. You guys are doing a great job. I hope you keep it up.
Thanks.
Thank you. I hope we get a press pass, too. That wouldn't hurt.
Oh, come on. Let's not go that far.
He wants every dollar, doesn't he?
We'll see you at the weigh-ins on Thursday.
Take care.
We'll be there.
Take care. Bye-bye.
I was going to say a little while ago, anybody who's seen Cubicle to the Cage will probably remember that the Olympic Hall is a fantastic venue. It's quite small, and it has sort of a raised area above the ring. And with no cage obstruction, with the fights taking place in a ring, basically every seat in the house is going to be a ringside seat. Rick, if you remember, that's where you had your first kind of come to Jesus moment with realizing that MMA events live are a hell of a lot of fun, if you remember that night. That was the two seagulls fighting over a French fry night.
Yeah. I remember it for the most part. I know the beer was nice and cold, too. I enjoyed that part.
So it was. Well, we're joined now, jumping back to The Rock, and The Rock not being Hawaii, but Newfoundland. We have Eamon Morrissey on the line, who is going to be flying and or sailing across the ocean to fight in Halifax this Friday. Eamon, how are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I am number one, sir. We had a chance to chat with Michael Foley a short while ago, and he gave us some history on his family's involvement in martial arts and now in mixed martial arts. And I'm from Newfoundland. I grew up actually just down the road from Michael and his family. So I've been really excited to get some fighters from the island up here and fighting in Halifax. How did you get involved in the sport in the first place?
I actually started years ago in Taekwondo when I was 6 years old, and then I just fell in love with the sport, and then just progressed through. And I remember watching my first MMA fight, which was Chuck Liddell versus Randy Couture, and since then I was hooked.
Where did you start training Taekwondo first, and how did you end up training with the Foleys?
I first started with Cantwell's Taekwondo back in 2001, and then throughout the years, as I started wrestling, and then I met a couple guys from wrestling who actually trained at Foley's too, and then I went over, loved the atmosphere. All the guys are like family, and it's just been perfect since then.
How old are you?
20 years old.
Now, Michael told us that there are an awful lot of guys in that gym, and they train sort of a little bit of everything, but there are guys who have their own specialty. There are guys who are really wrestlers, and there's guys who are really kickboxers, and there's guys who are really jiu-jitsu players. In the experience that you've had, what have you gravitated towards, and what do you feel are your strengths when it comes to your MMA game?
Definitely my ground game. I love the grappling aspect of it, but I like to consider myself an all-around fighter, and I'm just going to put it all together and bring it on Friday night.
Rick, jump in.
Yeah, I know, man, I'll tell you, we love to do these interviews. We love to give people time to get on and talk about themselves, and we learn a little bit about them. We got to do this really fast tonight, and I apologize for that because we like to get a few more of you guys on here tonight. But how you feeling going into your first fight, man? How's the nerves? Is everything steady?
Oh, I'm feeling great. If I wasn't 100% confident in my abilities, I wouldn't get in there.
Good answer, brother. Best of luck to you, and hope to see you this week.
I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks.
Well, thanks a lot, Eamon. It was great that we did get a chance to spend a minute with you, and I'll tell you what, we'll make you a deal. We're going to be taking a little break on the show in December, but you go out, win your fight, we'll get you back on, and we'll do an extended interview and talk a little bit more about your thoughts about the sport and how your first fight went here in Halifax.
Absolutely, brother. Sounds good.
Thanks a lot, man. You have a great night, and look forward to meeting you on Friday or Thursday at the weigh-ins. And take a minute or two, send out a few thank yous to any sponsors or supporters who've been helping you out.
I'd just like to say thanks to Mike Foley and my head coach and all my training partners who have helped me along the way. It's been a fun camp and a fun journey, and it's just going to keep getting funner.
Awesome, man. Best of luck.
Thanks a million.
Great story, Boyd. Loved it. You know, it's great for the first time ever we can get these guys on. I know we got to blow through them quick, and we'd love to have longer interviews with them. But the main thing is we're on here. We're trying to get them a voice and let you know who they are. Who's next up?
Skippy, do you have Mark on the line yet? There he is with his dead ear again. I bet you he's dialing him in right now. Our next guest is supposed to be Mark Crossman, who I believe is fighting a Muay Thai fight against Akitoshi Haraba, who's a guy that we've had an opportunity to see fight amateur MMA twice now. And you and I have trained with him quite a bit and seen him around the gym for a couple of years at Titan. So that is an extremely intriguing fight for me because Akitoshi is just such a perfectionist. He's such a technician, and he's shown in his last two amateur MMA fights that he has phenomenal heart to go along with that too. So I'm not sure about Mark Crossman's record or what he's bringing to the ring. I do know that he's training over in PEI with Richard Arsenault, so he's definitely going to be well prepared because Richard's got an absolute wealth of knowledge in combat sports. But I'm really excited to see what these guys are going to be able to show us.
Yeah, for sure. And, I mean, I've called him before in the past. He is a Canadian samurai in every aspect of the game. He's a machine. We've got the utmost respect for him. And I'm looking forward to this fight. This is going to be big. Hopefully we'll get a chance to chat with his opponent, learn a little bit about his background. And I think, Boyd, I think Skippy's got another gentleman on here that we've seen before, Mr. Norris.
I just saw that. I just saw it pop up. Eric, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us. I know you're busy with school and preparing for your fight and everything else, but we're super excited to have you on tonight because you actually have the added bonus of not only competing on this first ever amateur card in Halifax, but fighting for a title. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, man. It's kind of all pretty quick, but it's cool.
And where do you train right now? Because you had to move as a result of school, didn't you?
Well, no, I kind of just moved with my parents into the city closer to school, but I still train at Clinch in Sackville.
How did you end up at Clinch? And were you training martial arts as a kid and then got into MMA from that, or did you kind of just walking off the street and start training MMA all at once?
Well, to be honest, my cousin's husband is Kevin, and he's a part owner of the club. And when I was young, I kind of used to go back and forth in there with my little brother, but I played hockey a bit more. And then I kind of left MMA and stuff, left Muay Thai to go play hockey. And then after I started playing hockey, and they kind of wanted me to fight for them, so I decided to go back to MMA.
That's cool. And your brother, is he one of your main training partners, or do you have sort of a whole stable of guys that you work with?
No, we got a couple real good guys in there that, they're training to fight as well. So it's a pretty good time. He definitely he helps me a lot. He's one of the best training partners I got, that's for sure. Yeah,
no doubt. I mean, we've had a chance to watch him fight a couple of times in the Maritimes, and he's definitely a fantastic fighter himself. What's the weight difference between you two before I hand you off to Rick for a question?
Me and him, I think, he fought at 145, and I fought my first fight at 155, but there's quite a bit different in weight.
Yeah, you're fighting, is it 170 that you're fighting this week?
This fight is 170, yep.
Well, you've obviously beefed up a little bit.
To be honest, I slimmed right down for the first fights, actually, but.
Oh, okay.
This is more. I'm actually more natural weight right now.
And are you feeling better as a result of that going into this fight?
To be honest, man, the diet was definitely a lot easier. Like, you always got the worries, but I wasn't starving this weight camp. This fight camp. That's for sure.
That's super. Rick, jump on in.
Thanks so much, Eric, for coming on the show. It's nice to finally get a chat with you.
Yeah, I know. It's nice to talk to you, too.
So I know we're going to have to breeze through this really quickly because we're trying to get some other folks on here and get some exposure for them as well. Now, we've seen you once before here in Halifax. You were on one of the Pro-Am shows. Since I've been involved in the community here, I had never seen anybody step into the cage with such a buzz behind them as you did. Prior to the show, all I kept hearing was the Norris brothers. You guys made a real statement when you stepped in that arena. And after one fight, to be getting the push that you are now with the title shot, I want to know, has that affected things for you, or are you still taking it day by day?
I'm definitely still taking it day by day, bro. It went quick for me, too. Like, I was just kind of doing this as a pastime, and then it all blew up kind of quick. But I don't know. The way I look at it is whatever opportunity I get, I got to try to go after, you know what I mean? And this is the one that's presenting itself the most to me right now. So with that in school, I'm just, going one day at a time for sure.
That's good to see. I just didn't know, if there was you were feeling any pressure, from all the attention after only one fight, getting the spotlight here, getting the title fight, if there was any additional pressure to that, or if it's just another fight.
No, for me, it's honestly just another fight. I'm doing it to compete. That's what my favorite part about it is the actual competition, and I think I got a good competition ahead of me, so that's pretty well the way I'm looking at it.
Well, you certainly came in with an excellent package last time. You certainly got noticed, and we're seeing a big push for you. I wish you nothing but luck. And, brother, enjoy this moment. To get a title shot at any age, at any level, at any time in your life is a big deal. So suck every moment of this up, and good luck.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Eric, definitely take a couple of minutes to throw out a few thank yous to any sponsors or supporters or training partners and coaches that you have. Rick and I always want for guys to have a chance to thank the people that make it possible for us to do this and compete and promote you guys.
Yeah, thanks, man. I actually do appreciate that because I definitely need to give a big thanks to my club, my trainers, Kevin Tebow, Craig Sutherland, and especially Shane Rice. They're all putting together great camps for me, and they're there for me through this whole fight camp and this evolution of trying to be a good MMA fighter. And I also need to thank my parents and my family because without them, none of this would be possible. family for me is the most important thing, and it's really helped me get through any struggle that I find in life. So, thank you.
Well said. Fantastic, Eric. Thanks so much. We look forward to catching up with you later in the week, and best of luck in your title fight. Peter assures us it's an absolutely beautiful belt that anyone would be happy to wear, and with any luck, we'll see it around your waist.
All right, we'll find out. Friday night.
Take care, brother. Absolutely.
Yeah.
See you there.
Great
Skippy,
interview, Boyd.
Skippy Boyd here. Mark Crossman just texted me and said he's ready. Did I send you his phone number?
Yep. That was one of the guys I was trying to grab. I'm gonna call him right now. Give me.
Okay. And I'm just sending him a text to make sure that we got his number right.
Do we still have time to squeak a couple of guys on, or?
Oh, if we can get these guys on, Rick, I really want to do it because this is a big thing for these guys, and we don't want to jump out of the show 10 minutes early just because. I mean, this could be an important point in one of these young men's careers. I mean, who knows? We got to see Chris Kalides step into the cage at the UFC, become the Cinderella Man. He's now got another fight lined up in February south of the border. He's in a very new division in the UFC, and who the hell knows, he could be like the next MMA superstar in Canada. And he got to start right here in Atlantic Canada fighting on local shows. So we might be just going to see that on Friday night. That's one of the things that I find super exciting about this.
Yeah, no shit, my short-peckered friend. I mean, that's why we're here, to try to get these guys on the air a little bit and give them the exposure. So if we can get a couple more in the next couple of minutes. The big thing is, folks, if you're listening to this show, try to make an effort to get to this show this week and help support what we're trying to push here. And tell your friends, and let's help these guys out, and it helps the overall package at the end of the day.
And Skippy, I'm as soon as my crappy BlackBerry phone stops showing me a blank screen, I'm going to text you Mark Crossman's number.
Perfect.
Rick, a couple of shout outs that I want to give while we're waiting to get Mark on the line. Number one, Matt McGrath. Matt McGrath, I don't know if it's officially his nickname now, but people are referring to him in this part of the world as the belt collector. The guy's got a couple of dozen wins as a professional mixed martial artist. He's a pioneer and a pillar of the MMA community in Atlantic Canada. He currently holds 3 simultaneous belts in Canada from coast to coast. And the guy cannot find a fight. I don't know if nobody wants to fight him. I don't know if it's just bad luck, but Skippy, this is for you and for Carl and for Lepaki and for HR and all those guys. This guy's willing to go anywhere. He's willing to fight anybody. And he really, really, really deserves a fight. He's been inactive for far too long. So if there's any... sorry, go ahead, Rick.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up this fact. When the UFC came to town, everybody sat back and waited for Matt's name to be announced, and it wouldn't have surprised anybody. And unfortunately, it just didn't happen, and that does not mean for 1 second that guy doesn't deserve to be there. He certainly does. And if you run a fight promotion and you want a tough guy, Matt McGrath's your man. Give him the shot, give him the fights. He deserves it. He wants them. He can't get them.
You know, I will. Hey, Rick and Boyd both. I will definitely pass that name around to some friends. I don't understand. You know, for me, maybe I look at the sport different, but as a promoter and a fighter, I would be calling him out because look at his pedigree. Look at what he's done. You know, I would be like, I want to knock that kid off the block so I can take all his glory and I can get 10 steps in one fight. That's how I'd be looking at it.
Yeah, but unfortunately, sometimes politics get in the way, and people forget the fact that they want to fight the best. He's there. Come and get him.
love it. I love it.
Boyd, are you hanging in there, pal? I know you're having a hard time tonight.
No,
Your hair's turning gray.
I'm just touching base with Mark Crossman because he's texting me saying he's sitting there waiting for Skippy's call, and Skippy keeps telling me that he's calling him and getting a busy signal. So I'm just trying to get that worked out. Rick, another pitch I want you to give while I pop offline to do that is Michael Spenline is dropping to 125. He's trying like hell to get a fight as well. He wants to fight 3-4 times this year and in the next 12 months if he can. He's 7-1. I think he's he's 3-0 as an amateur. He's 3-1 at pro. His last fight was against an absolute top Canadian prospect in Lyndon Whitlock, and he really fought that fight at a weight class above where he feels he should be. So that kid needs a 125 fight anywhere. He told me tonight he has his passport, and he'll pass blood work and medicals anywhere, and he's ready to fight. Short notice fight, long notice fight, doesn't care. Just wants to fight.
Yeah, and he's the kid with the goofy hat, man. I'll tell you, but he's all business. He came into the ECC, and he was expected to lose every fight, and this guy put on a clinic out there. He put on a performance. He's one of these kids that there is no doubt in his mind what his goal is, and he is going after it, and he will fight the top fighters to get there. And, he's going to 125. I heard Morgan Rhymes is dropping down to 125 as well, or thinking about it. We got some good fighters here, folks. If you're looking for them, they're here. Yeah, Boyd, while you're playing
I just sent Skippy another number for Mark Crossman. So Skippy, if you can try that one, we'll be able to hopefully get Mark on. He promises me he can talk.
Yeah. Well,
and I don't know. I'm going to try to get a hold of D Loeb too, because I would love to get the other half of that title fight on here for a few minutes before we sign off as well, Rick.
Yeah, and I guess he's ready to go. So you go ahead, Boyd.
Sweet. Before we do bring Mark in, I do want one final call out. Gavin Tucker, I hear, is finally back to 100%. He's going to be competing in the Submission Series event in January, but I do believe he is ready to rock and roll, so we need to find that kid a fight so he can continue the meteoric rise up the Canadian mixed martial arts rankings again. Finally got you, Mark.
Yes, fellas, how are you?
We are number one. We're having a fantastic night. We're buzzed through, I think, 4 or 5 guests so far. You actually were hounding me, wanting to get the word out about your fight. Who are you fighting? How much do you know about him? And how do you think things are going to go on Friday?
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to Friday night, no doubt about that. I don't know much about Akitoshi, I believe his name is. I know that he fights out of Peter Martel, the promoter's gym, as well as your gym, I believe, Boyd. 2-0 record, MMA, and that's pretty much what I know. We're throwing down at 145.
So what's your background?
Sorry,
how did you? I said that. So what's your story? How did you first get into martial arts, and now how are you getting into actual combat sports and competing at this level? How did that journey unfold for you?
I started around 13 or so, boxing, a little bit of taekwondo when I was a kid to pass the time, but started to get serious around grades 7 and 8 with, like I said, a little bit of boxing, which transitioned right into hockey, and then picked up Muay Thai at a much later date. There's a big blank in the middle there, probably around 21, 22, I started doing a little competing in Muay Thai, and here I am today.
Cool. Was it a Muay Thai fight that you were looking for right off the bat, or do you train groundwork and looking at getting into amateur mixed martial arts as well?
Oh, I would love to transition into MMA for sure. My ground game is a little lacking right now, to say the least. But lots of experience in Muay Thai. I'm a striker by nature, so it's I enjoy the stand-up game a lot more than the ground game. That being said, I still have lots to learn in both, and definitely looking for a transition into more of the MMA style of a combat sport.
So I'm going to ask you one more question before I invite my co-host Rick in. Where are you training, and sort of who's your key trainers and your key training partners for this fight?
I'm training out of Island Impact. I've actually only been on PEI for a few months now. I was living in Ottawa for the past 5 or 6 years. So it's been a bit of a weird training camp for me. I've been certainly putting in the time and the effort. That being said, sorry, I'm just getting a beep through here. Sorry. That being said, jumped in at Island Impact about a month and a half ago. Called Richard Arsenault, letting him know that I was looking for a fight. I think he got back to me within 24 hours, and we started camp right then and there. Me and Richard do quite a bit of work together. You guys mentioned his name earlier. He is a wealth of knowledge, and I learn a lot from him every day. So he's kind of my main sparring partner, head coach, support system, the whole 9 yards, right down to cutting weight. So I can't say enough about the guy.
That's
I'm
awesome.
just going to
jump in, Rick.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thanks so much for taking the time to come on with us. It's a pleasure. Unfortunately, we're going to have to blow through this very quickly. This is live radio, and hopefully your coach didn't hear you order a pizza. If your coach is anything like my coach, doing a hell of a lot of burpees the rest of the week. I got to ask you.
Yeah, shoot.
I got to ask you, you're going up against the Samurai, tough guy. He's fought some tough battles. We've got the utmost respect for him around here. He's raising eyebrows. One of his strengths is obviously his speed. Is there a battle plan when you walk into this?
Yeah, I've been told that Akitoshi has quite good speed. That being said, I like to consider myself pretty quick with my hands and feet as well. I'm a pretty well-rounded fighter when it comes to the stand-up game, so it should be interesting. I think the first round, traditional Muay Thai is kind of feeling each other out a little bit and kind of setting up your game of chess for the next few rounds. But we'll see if we want to clip off right off the bat, that's fine, or feel each other out. Doesn't really matter to me. As far as to answer your question, counter speed with speed.
Excellent. We're really looking forward to this fight. Best of luck to you. I think it's going to be great. I think the fans are all really looking forward to this. Before we're going to let you go here, we're going to give you a couple of minutes to do a shout-out. Anybody you'd like to thank, go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, definitely Island Impact for the great support and for getting me a fight right off the bat. I thought that was pretty stand up of them. Definitely Richard Arsenault, his wife Courtney, everybody at Island Impact, Jody Phillips, who is also on the card. She's been training extremely hard. She's looking really, really good. Everybody should keep an eye out for her. And Sasha Hajitsa, who runs one of the best Muay Thai schools in all of Ontario, who got me started in the sport. Give a shout out to him as well.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Man. I was excited for this fight before, but now having an opportunity to chat with you and having worked with Akitoshi before, extremely excited to see what you guys are going to be able to demonstrate, because Muay Thai is very, very new to this area, and I don't think the audience is really going to have a true appreciation for what the sport is like, but hopefully you guys will be able to get in there and, like you said, have a little bit of a feeling out in the first round, and then really be able to show people the beauty of Muay Thai as it's supposed to be seen.
All right, guys. Well, really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much. We'll see you on Friday night. Best of luck.
We'll see you Friday. Thanks.
Well, boys, great
yeah,
show.
we didn't get D on. We didn't get D Logue on, which is disappointing because that kid I know just came back from the good old US of A, where he brought home a grappling gold. So I was interested in asking him a little bit about his strategy going into this fight. I mean, we know the Norris brothers can scrap like nobody's business, but if D's ground game, working with Dana Dickinson and those guys up at Synergy, is that strong, are we going to see sort of a grappler versus stand-up striker, old school fight, or is he planning on going in there and showing that he's a little more well-rounded, and maybe we'll see a fireworks show on the feet? Anyway, it was too bad we didn't get him on.
Yeah, it is too bad. We did our best, folks. Like I say, live radio, and we had some technical difficulties on the other side. Skip's taking the blame for it, but it's not his fault, man. Hopefully you folks get out and get a chance to watch this show this week. Boyd, you did a pretty good job, being all rattled up. I know you get like that when things get unorganized, but you held it together pretty good.
It's all about the fans, man. It's all about the fans. We're just trying to bring them a quality product. I do want to give a shout out about a couple of other fights that are taking place on that card, though, Rick. Jody Phillips versus Kirsty Cass is a fantastic fight for a couple of reasons. One of these ladies, and I won't tell you which one, is actually 44 years old. So there you go, Rick. There's a little bit of inspiration for you. You got a couple of months before you're 44. Maybe you can get another fight in there and catch up with her. So super excited, number one, to see women's combat sports also being promoted in the Maritimes, and super, super duper cool to see somebody who's in their 40s who's taking a serious approach to training in combat sports. So that's super cool. Another fight that I'm...
Sure.
Sorry, go ahead.
For sure, and I know, and we're looking forward to that. And I know you're poking around a little bit, but if I've got something to say, you'll be the first to know. Okay,
leave it at okay, we'll leave it at that for right now. You can't move.
Yeah, but I also know that somebody was sniffing around maybe to be a project manager for ECC and get involved in that end a little bit. Just a little.
Yeah. I may have spoken to some people about helping out there. Yeah. Well, I mean, I want to see the sport grow, and I mean, you and I can only do so much here on the radio. So if I can take my limited skills and put them to use in another way, then I'm willing to do it.
All right. What's the other one?
Coco McNeil and Robbie Innes. That's a pretty damn cool fight. You and I have had an opportunity to follow Coco since he was, 15 years old or something. And that kid punches way above his weight, has just an absolute love of combat sports, and his Muay Thai is absolutely scary. He's a southpaw as well. I know he works a lot with Gavin Tucker, who also fights southpaw. And he's fighting a guy, Robbie Innes, out of Flatline, who, I mean, this guy just wants to fight. He's been trying to get a fight for like a year or more now. He's the guy who was mid-weight cut in the back seat of a car on the way to weigh-ins and got the call that his fight was canceled last summer. So super excited to see things working out and him getting in there. And I'm sure him and Coco are going to put on an absolute Muay Thai clinic. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah,
Coco, who actually won by TKO in his first amateur boxing match this summer.
Man, do you ever shut up and just let me, speak once in a while? Yes, we have seen Coco. We saw him do some amateur boxing down in Bridgewater. It was very impressive. We know he did take a trip to Thailand as well. He's the real deal. Ennis, we really don't know anything about him yet. We have heard. He, spoke with Cole Peach. Cole knows what he's going up against. So that being said, this should be a battle.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cole actually reached out to me last night, said, please get Robbie an MMA fight as soon as possible at 125 as well. So if we got any 125ers in any of the gyms around Atlantic Canada there who want to have their first or perhaps second amateur MMA fight, we got a guy who's willing to scrap, and come on down on Friday night. You can have a look at it stand up.
Yeah, okay, now we got to wrap this up, Boyd. Before we do, Skippy, thank you so much for being patient and letting us run longer. It's just when this nerd gets talking, you know he'll babble forever.
No problem, brother.
Skippy told me that Madhouse Network is going to be shutting down for the month of December. Skippy, how many shows have you done nonstop without a break? What do you know? 200 weeks or something?
221 Madhouse episodes of just that show, but 718 total.
Dude,
so
you need a break. You deserve a break. It's absolutely fantastic working with you. Absolutely love my Monday nights for this very reason. Go, refresh yourself, come back. We got some exciting stuff to do in the new year.
Yeah, I got to thank you and your fans and your sponsors and all the guests you've had through all the shows this year. I can't wait to see what 2015 has for you guys guest-wise. And, thank both of you guys. You guys know you guys are my heroes, man.
Dude, we got along great until you said Metallica sucked. Everything went downhill after that.
Hey, dude. I can be honest and admit that Metallica sucks, okay? But I can also be honest and admit that you're one of the baddest men I've ever met, dude. You're my hero. And if you don't like the fact that I don't like Metallica, well, then I'm going to go out and buy their box set today.
As long as we talk about it and have a few laughs, brother, that's all I care. Sign us out, boys.
Okay. I gotta take just one quick minute, Rick. I really want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Acadian Fish and Chips, Draco Impact Sports, Farmbox Films, Repo Sales, Jack Cameron, Hemmings House Pictures, and Wilson's Titanium Products. Folks, if you have an opportunity, please support those local businesses because they support us and make it possible for us to do what we're doing for these young athletes, both amateur and pro, in the combat sports world in Atlantic Canada. So please reward those guys for the support that they give us. I want to give a extra special shout out to Mr. Jack Cameron, who went to the Montreal Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Open last week and won double gold in the seniors division. He won in his weight class, moved on to the open weight, and won the gold medal there as well. So well done, Jack, one of the hardest working people I know. If you need a mortgage, man, that guy's the dude to call.
He's not the guy to get the payment on, though.
Hell no. You miss the payment, he's going to get it out of you one way or another.
Right?
Yeah, thank you, Boyd, for doing that shout out. And right on the heels of that, folks, we're going to be looking around for some sponsors for this upcoming season. Get your checkbooks out because we're coming. We've been kicking around.
We got some exciting
things.
stuff planned, man.
Yeah, we want to start helping some fighters here too. So we're going to look to try to get some money in, and we'll be unfolding this in the next little bit for you. If you know of any companies that would like to advertise with us or sponsor us, help us in any way, please pass them our way. So with that, I'm out.
You said it, man. We're going to do a Fund a Fighter campaign. We're going to do a little broadcast or podcast website where people can get easier access to the shows, promote their fighters. We're going to try to put together a little fighter database for the Maritimes and Atlantic Canada so people can matchmake a little easier and get these guys fights. We got a lot of stuff planned that we want to do, and if you know of a company who's willing to support us in that, like Rick said, send them our way because we would greatly appreciate it. Rick, fantastic doing the show with you. Look forward to connecting in the new year. Skippy, as always, that's enough BS for one night.
And remember to wear your sunscreen.
Welcome to the BS Show. Are you ready to shoot the... The BS Show would like to thank their sponsors. Jack Cameron, accredited mortgage professional. Jack can show you the way home. Graco Impact Sports, providing top quality combat sport equipment tested and used by all levels of athletes. Dominate your world. RepoSales.ca, specializing in vehicle and equipment recovery, liquidation, and sales. Hemmings House Pictures, the global movement media makers, helping tell your brand story to the world and accelerate the momentum of your movement. Farm Box Films, capturing stories the way you want to remember them.